Big news out of the White House. They're looking at possibly firing lots and lots and lots of government workers. And you know why this is going to happen? Because the Democrats, they just can't get their act together. Take a look at this. Donald Trump ordering the OMB, that's the Office of Management and Budget, to prepare for mass layoffs of government workers. You know, and historically in the past, when you'd have one of these shutdowns, guess what? Everybody would get paid in the long run. I mean, they'd go without pay temporarily, but they'd get paid after the fact and they'd be hired back. Well, this time he's like, oh, we don't need them anyway. We're just going to fire them all. And Chuck Schumer is allowing it to happen. So pretty amazing stuff. Here to break it all down, my good friend Kent Strang from Americans for Prosperity. Good to see you back on this show, my buddy. Wow. I mean, Chuck kind of walked right into this one.
He sure did. I mean, the House just passed a clean continuing resolution, which means that the government would remain open for about another month without any increases in spending. But Chuck Schumer just isn't having it. He wants to spend another $1.5 trillion in spending. And so all these federal employees who are potentially going to lose their job, it's because Chuck Schumer doesn't want to negotiate with the president, pass a clean continuing resolution. And what he's really tying to is he is tying to these outdated temporary COVID healthcare subsidies. And that is going to cost taxpayers $40 billion a year, and they are set to expire because our pandemic is over. But that's what Schumer wants. And so he's going to put the livelihoods of a number of government employees at it. And he's certainly the obstructionist here because he wants that government to shut down.
Okay, I'm going to go back in time to 2020, and there was such an effort on behalf of the federal government. I mean, we saw Jerome Powell printing like there was no tomorrow, QE galore, plus low interest rates. Then you had the third stimulus check coming from Joe Biden, and you had a real effort from Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer to make sure they doubled down on all kinds of money. I mean, massive. We used to think Obama's package was big back with the $800 billion. This was over $1 trillion. So I think there's like $1.5 trillion that they want to extend here. Do I have that right? I mean, in healthcare spending, and I'm just going to be honest here, like COVID's over. It's no longer March 2020. We know what happened in terms of inflation. We know that inflation in healthcare is out of control. So why would we just keep throwing money at a problem like this? It's clearly not fixing anything.
We shouldn't. And Republicans were elected to eliminate waste, fraud, and abuse. But let's rewind. I don't want to rewind, but let's rewind to Bidenomics. What did Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, and Joe Biden do? They spent $5.5 trillion in new spending. And we know what the result was. 40-year high inflation. And what did it lead to? It led to the average American family paying $11,400 more just to maintain their lifestyle. We had the malaise of the Bidenomics era. And now that President Trump and we have a Republican Congress, they were elected to stop those things, get government back in check, eliminate the wasteful spending. That's what's got to happen here. We need to make sure that there's a clean CR passed. We're not going to spend another $1.5 trillion because Chuck Schumer wants to hold the government hostage over it.
You know, you say hold it hostage. Explain sort of what you mean by that, because he doesn't have the votes, right? Let's just be realists here. The Republicans have the House and the Senate. And
Republicans have the House and the Senate, but they're going to need 60 votes to come out of this. And so there is going to need to be Democratic support to continue to keep the government open. And so Republicans and Democrats are going to have to work together to keep the government open rather than shutting it down. But it seems very obvious to me that what we do is we make it possible where there's a clean continuing resolution as they keep the government open and continue to negotiate. But there is a solve that's a bipartisan solve that could end all of this brinkmanship on the politics.
Okay, bring it forward.
It's called the Prevent Government Shutdowns Act. And what it would do is it would say, we're going to continue to pass clean continuing resolutions. And while we work this out, there's no furloughs, there's no firing people, there's no shutting down the government. Politicians, believe it or not, have to stay in Washington, D.C. and do their job to come to a consensus to fund our government. What a novel concept.
Heaven forbid.
There's bipartisan support on this, and we could end the political brinksmanship that happens with these government shutdowns.
Is the brinkmanship at all in any way useful?
Well, perhaps there are times where there can be negotiations, but look, what do the American people want? The American people want a limited government that provides good services at a low cost rather than wondering if they're going to get the services they need. And I think we would like a government that functions well, that budgets, that do what everyday American families do. They make hard decisions, they come together, they make trade-offs.
Right.
But
To
there
help
might be
their
a reason.
family.
That's right. And we don't look at it that way.
Speaking of which, I mean, I got to ask you about this because this has been a sticking point in terms of government health care for people who are here in the country illegally. Your thoughts on that, Kent, and how much of a problem this is going to be in terms of the shutdown and getting some kind of clean CR?
100%. I mean, what we don't want is we don't want to continue these subsidies at all, regardless of who is on them, because they were never intended to be permanent. They were always intended to be temporary based on that COVID era, and they're set to expire. And so we're no longer in a pandemic. There's an incredible amount of waste, fraud, and abuse in these subsidies. They removed the income brackets. So now people who are making over $100,000 a year are getting subsidies. And what does that do? That harms the folks who actually need healthcare, who cannot afford healthcare, which is probably an important social safety.
Messed up. It's like, I don't know how anything could get so messed up. I mean, who do you blame? Lobbyists?
I blame our government, who continues to want to put people on the ACA, on Obamacare, rather than picking their private insurance and making reforms to allow more private insurance. We need personal options in healthcare. We don't need a government solve in healthcare. Healthcare is such an intimate and personal issue between us and our doctors, not government and insurance.
I want government out. I mean, you hear the horror stories in Europe. You hear the horror stories in Canada. People, I always say Americans for Prosperity, you guys do so much good. It's such a grassroots effort. You're looking for help. You're looking for bodies to go door to door and knock on those doors and help get the word out. And so people should go check you out at americansforprosperity.com. I know this is front and center, and this is an important time, right? You got like 6 days until the government shuts down. So there's still work to be done here right now.
Absolutely. There's always work to be done. There are always issues that Americans are tackling in Washington, D.C. And if you want to get off the sidelines and get into the game and make a difference for your country, now is a great time to do it. And Americans for Prosperity is an incredible avenue for you to be able to do that, whether it's being a digital activist, whether it's stepping into one of our field offices across the country to make phone calls, to knock on doors, to advocate online. Our country is too important for us to stay on the sidelines. So come hang out with Americans for Prosperity and get involved.
Maybe you'll get to meet Ken. Hey, listen, I love all that you do. Hey, thank you again. Good to see you.